We are slaying monsters.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
So I had to have this tooth pulled, and it's actually still missing. I'm down one tooth. I've been down one tooth for quite some time, but so it was a particular condition that is a very it's documented, but it's still like research, and people don't entirely know why this happens to teeth. That's something, it's called root resorption, and so it's like the things that happen to the tooth basically like dissolves itself, right? And my periodontist, I think it's a periodontist, was one of the people who like wrote papers on it. It was really, he's like deeply invested in it. And as soon as that tooth came out of my mouth, he like disappeared from my presence and was just like obsessed with the tooth and like really, really deep into, oh, look at this and look at this. And as I'm like looking over at him, still bleeding out of my mouth, whatever. They got the cotton in there and stuff. And I'm looking over and he's showing me this like bloody tooth in a cup. That's like, yeah, this was in your skull previously. And look, isn't this fascinating? I'm like, oh. Really good.
As you choke on your blood. No, yeah. So now did the tooth look messed up?
I couldn't tell,
You were just so upset. You were just like in such duress.
I don't know. I'm not a dentist. I'm not a or an orthodontist or fucking what. I don't know what I'm looking at. He's like, look at this and this and this. I'm like, I guess so, buddy. Can you like sew me up?
But you liked that though. You thought it was cool that he was so nerded out about it.
I think that's exactly the type of person that you want to do that kind of stuff on you. You don't want the guy that's like, no, whatever, just another day. You want the doctor who's like, whoa, this is fucking wild. Look at this. Like,
totally.
I mean, that's how I am, Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that if you brought a news item to me about like, I don't know, alien teeth, I'd be like, whoa, that's so fascinating. You don't want the guy that's like, oh yeah, I guess aliens have like fucking fillings and shit, whatever.
No, in this case, it's probably people were dug up.
Not so much aliens, but fillings, Yeah.
I mean, you have to get into it, but this does have to do with Jaime Maussan, by the way. This is a little lead-in.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, yeah. Santa himself is back, bringing us a little Christmas cheer in February.
Nice. He has mummified his elves and have shown them to the world.
What if that's what it is? Dude, what if this actually is Santa and he's just parading around these dead mummified elves? God, this is
Santa's gone crazy.
This is a morbid one. This is a very morbid Fortean Roundup.
I like it. I like that. Santa's finally he's just jumped the shark.
Ho ho homicide.
Yes. Oh, we are slaying monsters.
Hey.
We got Maddie J.
Yo.
And I'm EJ.
And we got Professor Maddie J.
Professor.
Yes.
Dr. Maddie J.
I have a degree in science.
Sure you do. He wrote it with crayon. It's actually hanging up behind us right now.
Hey. Crayon and marker.
Oh, okay. Only for big boys. Big boys are allowed to use markers.
They smell delicious.
Yeah, I bet. And just like Matt's tooth, we are also down a Katie today because of poor planning on our part. So we will normally have Katie back with us. We just don't have her today, sadly, because we just did not get her shit together in time.
Yeah, but she will be back for the next episode, and we have full intention to have her back for the next 40, and she'll be missed here because we have some news items that I think she would absolutely adore. But we're gonna push ahead, and
we're gonna muddle through somehow and
struggle through,
figure it out. Yeah.
Yep. So this is our Fortean Roundup. This is our Fortean Roundup for February, our abbreviated month, but not... Not really abbreviated news. Initially, I was kind of like, uh-oh, I'm not sure we're going to get a whole lot of news because of some shenanigans in the American political system that we're not gonna harp on too much, but are a little bit tangentially connected to some of these news items. So
How can they not be?
We'll get into it a little bit. But first off, we're going to start south of the American border, and we're going to start with our old buddy Jaime Maussan. We haven't talked about Jaime Maussan and his mummified aliens for a bit. I think actually over a year, because it was it was back in 2023 that he came forward and saturated the internet for like a month with these things.
Huh, okay.
But this is a brand new news item. Came across the table just as we were about to record. But Jaime Maussan's mummified aliens are back in the news. Now these, for those of you that don't remember, were allegedly found in the Nazca Desert, and he claimed that they were beings from another planet, or at least another time. Some people have actually been saying that they might be like time-traveling, futuristic humans, because that's exactly as plausible as time-traveling, or not time-traveling extraterrestrials, I guess. It doesn't, whatever, it's fine.
Okay, so now he's saying they're futuristic humans?
No, some people are.
Oh.
Jaime Maussan is a somewhat crafty individual because he's slippery, right? He doesn't necessarily associate with any one particular theory, which the best grifters do. They're just I found this weird thing, here it is. Now you make your decisions about it. And then when you come to a conclusion, he's like, oh, could be.
Yeah.
So anyway, these mummies that he presented, they are tridactyl, which means that they have 3 fingers. And x-rays apparently show that they have eggs in their stomachs, which some people have said indicated that they were egg-laying creatures. Now, these eggs are like egg-shaped oblong type things, and they actually register as solid, not with an embryo inside them. So they could also be rocks. But their discoverer, Jaime Maussan, he is a known grifter. He has a long history of passing off taxidermized creatures as real aliens. He's been doing this for well over a decade. But even so, he managed to get these particular mummies in front of Mexico's parliament, and they've been the subject of research and debate for about a year and a half at this point. The mummies themselves have real human bones inside them, although many of the bones are either misplaced or upside down, and some bones probably come from other animals like canines or something like that, which indicates that they were probably created, they, meaning the mummies, were probably created from parts, kind of like a super skinny Frankenstein's monster. And now, using an endoscopic camera, researchers were able to find teeth in the mummies' mouths as well. And some of these teeth even show signs of decay and dental work in the form of fillings.
Which could indicate modern, but could not necessarily indicate modern.
Yeah, the fillings are made from mercury, silver, copper, and tin, which aren't normally what we would use for fillings today. Normally we're using something like resin, glass, or ceramic particles for our fillings. So that doesn't necessarily indicate a whole lot. It could indicate that they're older, but it could also indicate that they were just not, cutting edge, but were still relatively modern. Mm-hmm. Now, the funny thing about this is the Daily Mail, who was reporting on this story, and similar other questionable news outlets. The Daily Mail is not what I would consider an authority when it comes to the news field. But the Daily Mail were using this evidence of teeth and evidence of dental work as confirmation that these mummies were quote unquote real. So they've been saying that this proves that the mummies are real. But I don't know entirely what you expected otherwise. Like, obviously they're real, they exist, we can go over and we can touch them. But that doesn't mean that they're not fabricated.
Well, I mean, real has a very wide definition. I mean,
Right.
Are they referring to the mummies being real humans? Or are they saying that they are real aliens?
Well, they don't go that deep into detail. They just say that they are real.
That would be helpful.
Authentic. But that could just mean that they use real parts, which I have never denied that they were using real parts. The bones are real. And I'm sure those teeth are real too. I don't think somebody made fucking resin casts of teeth and then made fake fillings for them. Mm-hmm. But they're human teeth with human-style dental work. So it's really hard to believe that extraterrestrial space aliens would have not only the same molars and incisors that are identical to ours, but that they would also be using exactly the same practices and techniques that we have in the past.
They have everything modernized and incredible, but they still do the same old work on teeth.
Right, and
interesting.
Like, are you destroying your teeth with like interstellar candy?
Yeah, or it's all that radiation that's just wearing your teeth down. And
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. But you'd think they'd be very good at dental work at that point, because that's, prevalent.
You had a lot of time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's probably being slippery about this and saying what? I mean, probably just that, well, aliens have teeth too or something.
I mean, that seems to be... The takeaway is a lot of things. It's either aliens have teeth, which, to be clear, these appear... If you're going to take these at face value as an alien species, mm-hmm. these are closer to the Greys than they are the tall whites, the Nordics, something like that, right? The reptilians, So we're assuming that these are Greys, if we're assuming that they're anything at all. But in most Grey encounters, they have these very thin, lipless mouths. Mm. And generally, they're not reported having teeth. So this already flies in the face of a lot of the UFO eyewitness reports and the contactee reports, the CE5, like Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, abduction reports. So already there's a big question mark here.
Oh, that's not a problem, though. I mean, they just discovered a new type of alien species.
And this is one of the things. That's exactly,
just move the goalpost.
That's exactly the kind of shit that they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, well, this is obviously a different species.
Right.
It's fascinating how many species are out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, this is another nail in the coffin for these mummies. It proves that these mummies are nothing but manipulated human corpses or constructed dolls of some kind. Not aliens, no matter what Jaime Maussan says. Now, the big question becomes, what are they and where did these parts come from and how illegal was the process of obtaining these parts?
Yeah, sounds like they should probably do some kind of dating on all of these bones. They probably already are, but to determine if they're super old or not. Right. That's where we kind of have to go, because I mean, I guess it's not technically illegal for you to do this. Like, I could probably put this in my will and be like, I want to be mummified, and then parade it around as if I was a mummy, an alien mummy. But if it was done non-consensually, then we have a whole other problem, and it becomes a real, at the very least, it's kind of horrific to do to somebody who died and didn't know it was happening. And it might even be illegal if they were corpses obtained illegally. Mm-hmm. So who knows? The jury is still out on that. And by illegally, I don't necessarily mean that Jaime Maussan, found a dead body somewhere, but they might be real legitimate archaeological finds that somebody dug up from Nazca and should have gone to a museum and instead are in Jaime Maussan's fucking private collection so he can shill them out and make money. I don't know what to say except more antics from Jaime Maussan.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what else he comes up with here. But.
Yeah, well, we will continue to follow the story as things develop. There's been, they've been testing them, and there's been an awful lot of, non-news on it. Mm-hmm. So as news like this that is actually substantial starts to come out, we'll just keep you updated. So stick around for more alien mummies, I guess.
Yeah.
So in our next update, we have an update on the New Jersey drone sightings that were all over the really international news at the end of December. And so this came from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who announced that the rash of drone sightings that occurred over New Jersey in December were actually authorized by the Federal Aviation Administration, and that those drones were FAA sanctioned drones that were being used for research.
Probably the most reasonable thing she said ever since she started this job. Yeah.
Probably.
And the Biden administration even said the same thing. They're just people doing their jobs up there. And there was in a mix of like regular, also private drone use as well.
The funny thing is the UFO community very quickly rejected that. I mean, the thing is, though, there seems to be no reason to believe anything else.
What? To
Like, I buy it. They were FAA sanctioned drones that
yeah.
were being used for research. Sure,
yeah.
You know, you flew some more drones over New Jersey. Probably looked a little bit different than what people expected because they weren't like the standard drones. They were being used for research. And then more people started looking at the skies. More reports from untrained eyes started creating more false reporting, which got picked up by news outlets. And that drove more people to start looking at the skies, which drove more false reporting. And then it became a cycle. This is a flap. This is a flap, the exact same type of thing that we've seen. We saw it in the 40s. We saw it in the 50s. We've seen it all throughout human history, really.
Yeah, and I think when we were first talking about this, I had the suspicion that we should just use Occam's razor with this and just say, you know, it's not. It's just that exact thing. It's like these are probably just regular people flying their drones, and people are paying attention because there's more than ever. And I didn't realize that there was probably an FAA connection in there, but that makes sense. Or I didn't really think about it that much. But
well, they have to be authorized by the FAA.
Mm-hmm. You mean private as well? Small private drones that you buy on Amazon?
Well, they have to be registered with the FAA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now these in particular, I guess they were doing a specific set of projects for the FAA.
Yeah, so these were like on-duty drones.
Right.
But then they were mixed with private
Yeah, of course.
drones.
Because also you have people who show up and say, wow, there's something weird in the sky. I'm going to fly my drone up and try to see it. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you? You know, if I had a drone, I would do that too. Fly it close to the alien spacecraft, see if they shoot it down.
Yeah.
See if they can fill the molars of my drone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I figured it would be. It's nice to hear that reasonable, measured conclusion, but I understand that people don't want to hear that as well.
Yeah. Well, and then it just becomes the same tired old talking point of why are they lying to us? Mm-hmm. Why are they lying to us? Clearly, this wasn't what happened, but. I mean, yeah, there's a point where you call Occam's razor. And we were measured about this back in December when we were reporting on it. Yeah. And said it's probably just false reports.
Yeah, or just confused reports. And, you know, I don't mean to be jumping the gun, but if any administration is going to be the administration to say it's aliens, it would be this one, because they're very intensely looking into disclosure. They really hope that Trump will be the one who is the disclosure president. I really think people should consider that when they think about what Leavitt said.
You're right. You know, Trump has said that he's gonna push for all this disclosure. This is going to be a news item we're going to talk about in just a minute. But yeah, Trump said he's going to be pushing for all this disclosure. He wants to disclose the JFK assassination stuff. And that was even something that he said before his inauguration was, I'm going to get to the bottom of this UAP stuff. I'm going to figure all this out for you. Mm-hmm. Which I suspect is probably all about destabilization, actually. You know, the idea that you can't trust the government is a very powerful one when it comes to an administration that is obviously intending to abolish as much as possible about the government that we believe. There's a lot of conspiracy wrapped up in this, and I am definitely concerned that there is a lot of conspiracy theory that's being weaponized right now in the idea of deconstructing the government and allowing them to use conspiracy theory as a loophole to push certain types of legislation through.
Mm-hmm. Which we'll also get to.
Which we'll also get to. And that we have to be very, very vigilant and very aware of all of that right now. I mean, we have to be vigilant and aware of fucking everything that every government is doing because...
No matter who is in charge.
Precisely.
Yes.
But certainly there is an inherent danger, I think, to weaponizing these types of conspiracy theories, much in the same way that we talked about how the evangelical right weaponized werewolves and the Dogman back in the 90s and early 2000s in a way to kind of push this idea of, well, there's something dangerous out there. There's something kind of metaphysical out there. I'm not saying it's satanic, but we happen to have the answers in case it is.
Well, yeah, but didn't they just come out and say that it was satanic in the 80s when it was a satanic panic?
They did.
Like it was
They did. But then in the 2000s, they stopped necessarily saying that the Dogman was satanic, but they were just pushing the idea of the Dogman.
Do your own research on that.
Well, exactly, right. Yeah. But yeah, so ultimately, I think while we do need to be skeptical about the things that are coming out of any government institution at this point, I do think we can also use Occam's razor. We can use our own reasoning at the same time and say, does this make sense? Yeah, I think it does. And in this instance, I think, yes. Obviously, there were a couple other drones in the sky. It spooked some people into looking more closely, and when they looked more closely, not knowing what they were looking at, they found a bunch more drones. Nothing extraterrestrial or interdimensional about them.
There's just no evidence for it.
Right. And then we have one more update, and this is, I think this is a pretty cool update. This is an update that's coming from AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Research Office of the government, who has published a paper that is their reporting on the leaked Pentagon GoFast video. I'm sure that our listeners remember this one. It is a video that myself and many, many other researchers and video professionals have identified and debunked as being a small object moving slowly and appearing to move quickly because of parallax. AARO's findings confirm everything we've been saying. And in fact, they say it this way. I love this quote. AARO has high confidence that the UAP did not exhibit anomalous or even exceptional behavior. This conclusion is based on the results of our analysis of the range of possible scenarios. Basically, the object was moving at the speed of wind and traveling about 13,000 feet above sea level, which is exactly what you would expect from an untethered balloon or a bird. It looks like it's moving faster because the camera is locked on it, while the jet that the camera's mounted on is traveling much faster, and that results in parallax.
And of course, people are saying bullshit, right?
I mean, nobody trusts anything that comes out of AARO because they've determined that AARO is one of these organizations that just covers shit up.
Okay, yeah. But that's really nice to hear because that, again, makes the most sense.
Right.
It's logical.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't say what it is because, of course, we don't know.
You can't tell.
Yeah. It could be a bird, could be a balloon, could be a lot of different things. But what we know is that despite what the narrative was surrounding this, it's not displaying any anomalous behavior. It's not going fast, super, super fast. It's not changing direction. It's not doing any of that shit, right? And it's not flying in any particularly strange way. Because that was the other thing is that like, oh, is it just skimming against the surface of the ocean or something like that? But no, it's 13,000 feet high. That's well within the range of a bird, a seagull, something like that. So remember this. This video, the GoFast video, the Pentagon video, has been officially debunked over and over. AARO has done it. NASA debunked it. Quite a while ago, NASA debunked it. Corridor Crew, who I absolutely love, the video effects guys, debunked it. I debunked it. like it's been debunked over and over and over again. And yet, when we see people like Lou Elizondo, when we see the News Nation reporting on Jake Barber that happened last month, they keep pointing back to these videos and being like, this is great evidence. Look at this. But it's been debunked. Mm-hmm. It's not real. So remember that when someone claims that UFOs use impossible technology or display extraordinary capabilities, those people are either incorrect or they're outright lying to you.
And they're referencing a video that's been debunked by many, many people.
Yes.
And we don't know the object. We just know the object's behavior. And I think that's an important thing, too. There's no hard evidence. Like, it didn't crash into the ocean.
Right.
We did not recover anything. We didn't get to go fly right up to it and look at it closely. It was far off, right?
Right.
Wouldn't it be crazy if, like, you were the fucker that let your balloon go at your birthday party? And this is all because of that. Like, this some fucking SpongeBob SquarePants balloon.
There's some fucking kid who was bawling his eyes out because he lost his SpongeBob balloon.
Yeah.
And the fucking Navy was like, oh my God.
What if they did get close and it was just SpongeBob staring at them, smiling? If it was a balloon, there is some kid who is to blame for this. Or some bachelorette or something like that.
Yeah, right. Could have been one of those gender reveal parties.
Oh, God, they've caused so many problems. I bet it was a gender reveal party.
Yeah, but you bring up the important distinction that it's nuance, right? Mm-hmm. We don't know what it was. But that does not mean that it was a UFO. It doesn't even mean that it was like an anomalous non-human intelligence craft. Mm-hmm. We just don't know what this object was, but we filmed something behaving exactly as we would expect it to in this circumstance. Mm-hmm. There's no news here. There's no story. There's no fucking groundbreaking disclosure from it.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that. Even though we don't necessarily know 100%, we can't prove 100% what it was, we can say with certainty that it's not doing anything outside of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And that's important. And I know nuance is hard in this new world with like super fast journalism and the world of like 140 character messages and that kind of shit.
Right.
But it is important. It is a very important distinction.
Yes. And
this video, it does not support any case that UAPs have anomalous behavior. None. So when like fucking Age of Disclosure comes out next month and screens at South by Southwest and everybody is like, oh my God, look at the GoFast video. Look at how crazy it is. If you see it, remember that video has been debunked. That is not proof.
Yeah, if it's a balloon, it's probably inside of a dead turtle right now.
Aww.
Aww.
Poor turtle.
So sad. I had to bring us down like that.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Or it's a seagull that's currently pooping on somebody's head.
Yeah, it's probably that.
It's probably a seagull. Yeah, but I am determined that this is a SpongeBob balloon.
I do like that it's a SpongeBob balloon. It's a SpongeBob. Our next news item comes to us from the Daily Star, one of my favorite little news organizations. They give us a lot of our news.
Thank you, Daily Star.
Thank you, Daily Star, for your groundbreaking report. Well, no, but it's hard, man, because there are a lot of places that you try to go for Fortean news, and they just don't really have it, or they have like one story about a ghost or something like that. And Daily Star is actually like they're bringing the Loch Ness news. They're bringing this stuff.
It's your one-stop shop for all crazy stuff. Because like I was reading that article, and then below it was this one article about a guy who killed his wife on Valentine's Day because he did this huge like thing for her for Valentine's Day, and she was like, meh. Like he did this like Paris themed. It's not. No, it's not funny. It's not. No, I love this woman. And fortunately, she is now. He has killed her, which is just terrible. But he did this whole like Paris themed Valentine's Day thing, and she was nonplussed. And
Yeah.
That's what happened. So anyway, this is the other article below this one.
You gotta go to the tabloids to get the real hard hitting
You
Fortean
do.
news. It's funny. Do you remember Men in Black, the movie Men in Black?
How could I forget?
Yeah, because that was their thing too, right? That they
Yes.
pulled the weekly world news from the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
counter and stuff, and he was like, "This is where the real news is.
Yes.
That's where we get our news. We've become the Men in Black."
we really have. Oh my God, which one are you? Are you Will Smith or what's the
No.
other guy's name?
No, obviously I'm Jay.
Who the fuck is Jay?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, thank you. I was like, who's the other guy? Tommy
I
Lee
think.
Jones.
Wait, or is that right? Was he
I don't
Jay?
know.
Was he? I think he was K. Huh. I don't remember. They just had letters. I can't
letter
remember
names?
who was K.
Okay, so you're Tommy Lee Jones.
I think I'm Tommy Lee Jones because I'm the seasoned one here.
Oh, you're like the hardened like FBI.
right.
Okay, I'm Edgar.
Sugar in water. Water.
I identify with Edgar.
As a big like cockroach.
He's
It's
like, yeah,
big cockroach in human skin.
Yeah.
That's how you identify.
yeah. I really feel it. That I feel kinship toward him.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is a news item here. So, a UK filmmaker has reignited a decades-old UFO story. And he claimed that while filming his upcoming doc, he captured mysterious events in Rendlesham Forest, a park in Western England. According to what the Daily Star calls a, quote, top ufologist, Mark Christopher Lee, this is the documentarian, he and his crew captured strange lights and strange sounds in the forest. And he says, "We found some pretty strange stuff. We saw some unexplained orbs in the forest. We couldn't pinpoint where they were coming from. There was no one there. I've got a science degree, so I'm quite rational, but there is something strange about that area." Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A
Sorry.
degree
I
in
didn't-
science.
I read this article. I just think that's really funny.
No, it's like going to a restaurant that specializes in food.
I guess so. I have a theater degree, so I'm very irrational.
Oh, you like that? He's like, I have a degree in science, so I'm skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just the generic like degree. What's that even? You would have a degree in biology.
I mean, maybe he might just very well have a degree in science. I don't know. I mean, it could just be that he didn't feel like taking the time to specify, you know? I don't know. But one does not necessarily mean that you are completely rational just because you have a science degree. I know plenty of scientists that are not rational people.
Yeah, right. Mark Christopher Lee, if you're listening, and I'm sure that you are,
I'm sure.
drop us a line. Let us know what your degree is actually in, or if it is literally just general science.
I mean, it would be more intense than my degree, which is, again, theater arts. So I didn't even take a science course in my college.
Yes, you did.
What? I did? What? Oh my God, I took pseudoscience.
You took pseudoscience.
I did take pseudoscience. Okay, so I got to tell you guys this. I totally cannot do math. So I did my best to cop out of the math and sciences. I like science, but I'm terrible at math. So I copped out of the whole math and science college necessity by just taking like pseudoscience, which it requires no math, no memorization. You just sit there and you listen and you use your critical thinking skills about pseudoscience, which really did set me up perfectly for this job that I get paid very highly for here at Slaying Monsters.
We're just rolling in it.
But anyway, yes. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
I can't really speak to Lee's findings because he didn't actually provide any proof of anything or any of his findings at all. They will probably be in his documentary, which is due out this spring. But we can talk really briefly about Rendlesham, why Lee was filming there, and the flawed reporting surrounding the alleged alien encounter that happened there. So the story goes like this. One night in December of 1980, there were strange lights witnessed in the vicinity of Royal Air Force bases, Bentwaters and Woodbridge. These two bases relatively close together. And they are near Rendlesham Forest. Concerned that something had crashed, the personnel followed the path and allegedly found a triangle or cone-shaped craft ringed with lights. The craft had allegedly touched down, and a depression from its landing gear could be seen in the ground. There are even some reports that the personnel saw beings working on the craft as if they were doing repairs of some kind. Subsequently, witnesses allege that they've been coerced into silence by their superiors and the government with vague death threats. Clearly, none of this has actually worked because the Rendlesham Forest incident is one of the most famous encounters in the last half century. If they had actually meant any of those death threats, and if they had actually wanted to bring these people to silence, then these people have done exactly the opposite. They've come very public with their story. Ufologists call this story compelling, and even extra compelling, because we have a signed memo and audio interviews with the people who were there, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, who claimed to have been part of the search team. He was accompanied by several other individuals, and they all report the story differently. So things are going to get kind of confusing here, because we have documented sightings by several different people all reporting different things. Some people saw a craft, some only saw flashing lights. Some saw people or maybe robots working on the craft, some didn't. And this all makes the Rendlesham incident hard to keep straight, which probably helps lend it some credibility.
Actually, I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, because if the scale keeps changing, it's hard to investigate everything. Mm-hmm. You know, and then the goalpost moves a little bit, and then we say, oh, well, maybe that wasn't true because this guy doesn't confirm it, but then there's also this piece, and it's hard to keep things straight.
Well, also, if it was and I'm not saying it isn't, but if it was a very orchestrated and calculated lie that these guys came up with together,
right?
They would have a very concise story that matched.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah. If this was a fake story for some reason that they were like, haha, we're gonna pull a lie, a falsehood out and get a book deal or something like that, right? Then they would all have more or less the same story. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense to be like, oh, well, why don't you directly contradict what I'm about to say?
Yeah, to me, that makes it seem more believable.
Right. Ultimately, Airman Edward Cabansag, in his statement, said that the lights led them to a, quote, lit-up farmhouse. Beyond that was a lighthouse, one that none of the men knew about previously. It seems very likely that the flashing lights that they saw was the lighthouse signaling at regular intervals. In a 1997 interview, this is now 17 years after the incident, Cabansag said, "There was absolutely nothing in the woods. We could see lights in the distance, and it appeared unusual as it was a sweeping light. We did not know about the lighthouse on the coast at the time."
Oh, wow.
As for the craft, only Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston has notes regarding it. But his notebook, where he took notes on the craft, only came to light in 2003, and the dates and times in it don't match any of the other reporting around the case. And his fellow investigator said that he never saw Peniston take notes, which means that the notebook was likely created after the incident. Peniston also claims that in the days following the crash, he received a telepathic message of binary code, which he wrote down in that notebook. But once again, the code only came to light in the early 2000s, 2 decades after the incident, and was written in a notebook filled with other erroneous material.
And this is an instance where he touched the craft, right? And they got telepathically sent to him.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
Right. But he didn't write it down until later, and he didn't reveal it to anybody until almost 20 years later.
And didn't they decipher the binary code?
They did. And it was a list of coordinates. The code itself was 16 pages long, but it was a list of coordinates of ancient sites around the world, pyramids at Giza, Nazca lines at Peru, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The standard, ancient aliens
what
type
you would
of
expect them.
Yeah.
Man, it would be so impressive if it was actually in the moment he wrote the binary code. And I think
really would.
I think I remember watching a little documentary about this and making it seem like it had been transmitted to him and he immediately wrote it down.
but he didn't.
But no, it was years later.
Yeah, he didn't. Last podcast did a series on it.
Oh, they did?
It might be that, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, but last podcast wouldn't have. I feel like it was an actual video that I watched that made it seem like he did it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Last podcast wouldn't have said that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. The other funny thing is that it was ASCI. I think it's ASCI. It's like the American Standard Binary Code that he used, which seems really weird that the aliens would have translated something to him in a particularly American binary code. Like, binary is not a universal language throughout the entire universe, you know?
Interesting.
Anyway, and as we said, it was all written down after the fact. It only came to light 20-some years later,
Yeah.
so
come on.
It seems much more likely that he made it up later on. The other fault in Peniston's story is that he admits to using memory regression and hypnosis in 1994 to help him recall specific details about the craft and its occupants. Following this session, his story changed and became remarkably similar to the 1993 movie Official Denial, which was a Sci-Fi Channel film about a strange craft shot down in the forest by the U.S. Air Force. It's obvious that the real-life incident sparked an interest in UFOs for Peniston, who identified with the sci-fi movie, and the two stories became forever intertwined when he went under hypnosis, which even then in 1994 was a flawed and extremely harmful practice. We've talked all about
Recently.
how hypnosis and memory regression is absolute bullshit. Investigators searched the alleged landing site the following days, trying to find evidence of this craft. And they did find a trio of strange divots in the ground in kind of a triangular pattern, vaguely triangular. And this appeared to support the story because it was supporting the craft, right?
Very good.
But it was later determined by the police that they were likely made by rabbits digging in the soil.
Oh,
So the whole Rendlesham case goes like this, okay? Some young military personnel saw the lights of a lighthouse, and not knowing what it was and not knowing that there was a lighthouse there, they wandered through the woods in search of it. They found nothing but rabbit burrows, but didn't know what they were seeing. In the intervening 20 years, ufologists jumped on the story and encouraged the witnesses to embellish it, unintentionally convincing them that they'd experienced something more profound.
because it's cool to be involved in something exciting like this.
Well, absolutely. And then here again, it supports the conspiracy theory side. Because what do we have? We have allegedly a bunch of their superiors then coming to them and saying, you didn't see anything. If you tell anybody about this, bullets are cheap. That was the phrase that they keep.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they keep using that. Bullets are cheap.
Why did they tell
push
them to
them to
not
silence.
talk about a lighthouse and bunny burrows?
I don't even know if that happened.
Okay.
That is all. So the eyewitnesses, particularly Jim Peniston, said that they were approached by their superiors and said, you're going to get in trouble if you report this. But then they fucking did it anyway. And
Yeah.
nothing happened to
Yeah.
them. And this is
Okay.
one of the problems that I have with this entire disclosure movement is the fact that people keep saying, oh, it's top secret. Oh, we're not allowed to talk about it. This is the Lou Elizondo problem, too, that he's like, oh, I can only talk about this, that, and the other thing. But he's literally coming out and being like, yeah, we have alien bodies in places. I just can't talk about it. What are you afraid of, dude? What are you really afraid of? Because if they were going to come after you, I think they would come after you for saying we have alien bodies, not for not talking about the particular type of alien that you have. You know?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
The logic doesn't track here.
Yeah, it doesn't track to me, or for me either.
Yeah, maybe documentarian Mark Christopher Lee saw some strange lights in the Rendlesham Forest. But they might have been a nearby lighthouse, the very same one that has been generating UFO stories for decades. We will have to wait and see until his documentary comes out. So according to a news story in Politico, it seems that Trump may be cutting the real-life X-Files team. There is a previously undisclosed FBI task force working on UFO research in the government, and they're worried that they may be fired as the new regime continues to come in and gut all of these programs. Apparently, some of these individuals were also working on the January 6th attack, when violent protesters stormed the Capitol because they were upset that Trump lost the 2020 election. Now that he's president again, it seems like he's removing anyone who opposes him, and that includes some of these agents.
Who are working on investigating the attack.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to be clear.
I don't. Yeah. In case I didn't make that
Yeah.
clear, they were working on the investigation behind the January 6th attack.
Yes.
And apparently also, I'm sure that that's not your entire day, right? So they were also researching UFOs. Ryan Graves, the former Navy pilot and one of the figureheads of this modern disclosure movement, spoke with the task force. They call themselves the UAP Working Group. And Ryan Graves had this to say. This FBI working group is uniquely positioned to investigate UAP due to their joint law enforcement and intelligence authorities. I am concerned that they could be affected by transition changes, and these leaders may not be aware of the incredible work these agents are doing and how their investigation could be empowered as part of a formalized intergovernmental effort.
Right, because they're taking a machete to this. They're not looking too deeply into
none of this. Yeah.
They're not. They're not thinking things through. They're just saying, "Oh, you looked into January 6th? Get the fuck out."
Exactly.
Even if you could be extremely useful and helpful to the FBI.
Right. It seems like on the surface, the UAP task force, the UAP working group, is investigating whether aliens are visiting Earth. And we can have a whole discussion as to whether that is a good use of government resources or not. But it's also important to point out that this FBI group might just be saying, there are weird things in the sky. We should look into them to see if they are, domestic terrorism. Mm-hmm. If they are drones that are being flown illegally for illegal surveillance in places, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Not all UAP immediately equates with extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings. It can also be, bad actors. It can be foreign intelligence gathering, all kinds of shit like that.
Yes.
So to gut this department is not only cutting out potentially good research that could be used on things like disclosure and UFO research, but also national security.
Oh, yeah.
According to a New York Post article, Anna Paulina Luna has been appointed to a new task force, and her task force is going to be focused on declassifying governmental secrets, like UAP shit. Time will tell what the results are with all of this. Luna and I don't agree on many issues, like whether Congresspeople should carry guns into their cabinet meetings or if atheism causes mass shootings. But
wow, really?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Jesus.
Yeah. She said this was a tweet, so I'll admit that there's not a whole lot of nuance to Twitter, but she did tweet something to the effect of, we would not have as many mass shootings if we had more God. Like if more people studied religion, there would be less mass shootings.
It's really funny. Okay.
In an administration that is built on fake news and spewing baseless bullshit, I'm definitely concerned about a partisan task force that is allegedly delivering the truth behind governmental secrets. Mm-hmm. Not to be a conspiracy theorist myself, but we will need to take a very close look at everything that's coming out of Luna's findings, and we will need to use our own rationalism to determine if it's believable or not. And this gets back to our second news item about the drones, where they came out, they said, hey, that was authorized by the FAA as a research program. My rationalism says that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to use the same rubric. We're going to have to use our knowledge, our experience for everything that comes out like that now.
Extra hard because we have people like Luna heading these things.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, she's been deeply entrenched in this whole disclosure thing for a long time. She was on the panels with Grush. She was on the panel with Lou I believe she was on the panel with the latest Lou Elizondo interview. I can't quite remember. She wasn't the main one running it because it was...
That was Mace?
That was Mace. That was Nancy Mace, yeah. But I think Anna Paulina Luna was there. She's been involved in all of this. So, yeah, I mean, we have to be careful about it.
Probably the people that they want to gut out of this program are the very people that said that there was nothing really untoward about these drones in Jersey. They're just like, we have them to thank for saying it was fine. It was a... Levitt said that there was nothing to see here, like it's fine, totally normal. They're probably the ones that investigated that.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. So, and now you're going to gut their program.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to have to keep an eye on it and see how much of that program actually gets gutted and if these people are losing their jobs or not. I don't have great faith that they're going to keep their jobs just because it seems like Trump is coming after anyone who opposes January 6th.
Or opposes him in general.
So we're just going to have to keep an eye out.
Do you know Northumberland County?
No, not at all.
You don't? They're just a little north of where you grew up, I think.
Yeah, we don't go that way.
You don't go up there?
No.
Why don't you?
It's like in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, Northumberland County.
Sure, it's a lovely county.
Yeah,
lovely.
I'm sure it's
full of lovely,
wonderful.
hardworking people.
Also, like, I didn't really travel around a whole lot when I was in that central Pennsylvania area. You know, the furthest I went was really like the Harrisburg region.
Ooh, exotic.
Like I didn't go, and then we had family in Pittsburgh, and so we would drive out to Pittsburgh like once in a blue moon, but we still just drove through that whole section of Pennsylvania. We didn't like stop anywhere in the middle. You just like boom through the mountains. So
anyway, so this next story comes from Northumberland County.
yes. And this story, it's sort of a sad story. A Pennsylvania man killed his girlfriend because his, quote, paranormal meter reading convinced him that she was trying to eat him. I got this news, this became kind of a big news item. I got this news story initially from people.com, but then I found a little bit more in-depth site from WVIA News as well. But apparently this guy, Jared Wolf, had set up some kind of device which all the news organizations are just calling a paranormal meter, which frustrated the hell out of me. So I assume that this was a tri-field or a Mel meter responding to EMF spikes.
I mean, come on, guys, get specific.
Well, you're a news researcher. Like, do some fucking research.
Do you think they give a shit if it's a Mel meter or an EF, what the fuck it's called?
I think they should. You should have come to us. Look.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
People.com, next time you have one of these stories, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to help you understand the way that paranormal research works.
Oh, I'd love to ghost-splain all this to you so hard.
Let me ghost-splain.
Yeah, as if they give a shit.
They should. They should be responsible journalists.
No, they shouldn't.
So anyway.
Bullshit box. It's a bullshit box. Okay.
No, either a tri-field or a Mel meter, probably responding to EMF spikes. None of the reporting claimed that ghost voices specifically came through, which is why I don't think it was an EVP device like a spirit box or the Ovilus. So, anyway, according to the police affidavit, Wolf and his friends were at home smoking something. Wolf doesn't know what it was that he was smoking. He then used this paranormal meter to, quote, check a statue for energy and received a high reading of paranormal activity, which made him feel very scared. Understandably, right? You're high, and then you get a reading on your Mel meter, you know? So Mel meter, tri-field meter gave him a spike, and he jumped to the conclusion that his companions were going to kill him and eat him. He ran out of the house, grabbed his handgun from his car, and his girlfriend, Jane White, followed him out because she was concerned for him, and she tried to open the car door, at which point he shot her in the chest and killed her.
Oh my God, that's how it happened?
That's how it happened.
She opened the door? Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh.
Yeah. According to WVIA, the police found, quote, a large amount of suspected synthetic marijuana.
Synthetic marijuana?
Synthetic marijuana. The street names, they call it Spice or K2.
Okay.
You've heard of Spice, right?
I actually haven't. I'm quite lame, so
Okay.
I haven't heard of these awesome drugs.
Not like Dune Spice.
I know Dune Spice.
Yeah.
I don't. And K2 is isn't that a mountain?
K2. I think K2 is a mountain.
K2 is
Isn't
a
that one of
mountain.
the like highest mountains with Everest?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I think that I know that in terms of dune and mountains, but that's my knowledge.
Okay. So neither of those are correct.
Okay.
It's not dirt from K2.
Okay.
Synthetic marijuana, it's a designer drug. Mm-hmm. So it is a lab-created drug that mimics the effects of THC. And side effects of this synthetic marijuana include tachycardia, increased heart rate, paranoia, hallucinations, anxiety, and agitation.
Okay.
A good rule of thumb, I think, is don't go ghost hunting under the influence of any drug.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that pure marijuana probably wouldn't be too bad.
I mean, it would kind of chill you out.
Yeah, that's why
guess.
I was thinking this had to be something else because marijuana would just make him like be happy.
Yeah,
He'd
it
be,
was.
like,
It
chilled
wasn't
and-
straight up marijuana.
Hell no. He had some bad shit in his system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, ghost hunting can be scary. Any drug that elevates those feelings of fear and anxiety can have nasty side effects, and that can make you a danger to yourself and others. I don't think that he was specifically ghost hunting. I think that they were probably at this place getting high, and he was like, "Hey, let's check this out." And then, I mean, it's hard to speculate, but that's my guess.
Just terrible, man. This poor woman lost her life for fucking nothing.
Yeah,
she
it's
had
really,
kids.
It's
She had a
really
life.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely terrible.
If you do decide to ghost hunt under the influence, before you do, just think about, do you want to be fucked up when you talk to your first ghost? Is that really how you want to present yourself to this ghost?
I don't really care what the ghost thinks of me.
The ghost is going to think you're a stoner.
I don't care what the ghost thinks. The ghost's dead.
Yeah, but still, like, this ghost might not talk to anyone. You know? You might be the first person this ghost talks to, and you're going to be like, "What's up, man?"
Okay, so if this wasn't drug induced, if this was just a guy who thought this straight up, totally sober, I'd be railing against like how dangerous this shit can get. This like believing in the paranormal can get.
I think you still can.
I think you still can, but I think this was also mostly probably drug induced paranoia.
Yeah, it's probably up in the air whether how much the ghost paranormal meter had to do with what happened.
Yeah, he could have been having a freak out regardless.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It seems like that was the trigger for it, but you never know.
Anything could have been the trigger.
Totally.
Man.
If you're going to go ghost investigating, just be careful. Think about what you're putting in your body before you do it. You know, just be careful. And also, like, think about how much you're going to turn off the lights, because people fall down all the time.
It's true. It's true. You really don't want to be anything but sober.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with people who are like moving room to room, and you get in the room, you set everything up, you turn off the lights, and then you sit still for half an hour or something like that. I get that. That's totally cool. I feel like that's a safe way to investigate the ghosts. But when your investigation is over, turn the lights back on. You know, have the lights on as you move room to room. Don't be moving through these dark buildings with all of the lights off. It's just dangerous.
I feel like the Ghost Adventures crew can really attest to this, but they continue to do it because it's good television.
I mean, it is good television.
I love watching them fall down.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching ghost hunters fall down.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Well, in our final news item today, some conspiracy theories never die, no matter how stupid they are. There is a new bill in the Iowa House that would make it illegal for aircrafts to alter the weather through the use of airborne contaminants, meaning chemtrails. Jeff Shipley, one of the authors of this dumb bill, said, quote, "There is no doubt the potential for polluting atmospheric activity. The potential for cloud seeding, for weather engineering exists." Actually, Jeff, there's quite a bit of doubt. And look, I understand that some cloud seeding and weather modification is real. There have been several successful experiments using microsubstances to change the composition of clouds, increasing the likelihood of rain. Now, whether that is useful or effective is up for debate. See, in 2003, the U.S. National Research Council reviewed the process and concluded that they were, quote, unable to say with assurance which, if any, seeding techniques produce positive results. In 2010, Tel Aviv University concluded that the practice of cloud seeding didn't seem to have any effect on rainfall at all. And in best cases, like a 1998 meteorological study, the effectiveness was about 10%, meaning that there was a 10% increase in the chance of rain. So like if there was a 20% chance of rain on that day, normally you might bring that up to a 30% chance.
Which is really not much of it.
Which is really not much at all. Yeah. You can see how that's hardly significant. However, cloud seeding has been linked to a particularly bizarre conspiracy theory, and that's chemtrails.
Not to be confused with contrails.
Not to be confused with contrails.
Which I have confused before.
No. So the chemtrail theory says that planes are flying in our atmosphere, spraying various chemicals that are intended to affect the population. Could be anything from like spraying us with diseases or COVID-19, or they could be spraying us with vaccines and vaccinating you against your will, or they could be spraying hallucinogenic drugs to give some type of like MK Ultra type result. Shipley and his constituents believe that their state, Iowa, is plagued by planes spewing aluminum, barium, and nanoparticles. And as proof, they point to pictures and videos of planes flying and leaving these vapor trails behind, which we've seen, there's vapor trails in the air when a plane goes by. Sometimes they're white and sometimes they're multicolored.
Those are contrails.
Those are contrails. They're not chemtrails. Chemtrails aren't real. They don't fucking exist. Contrails. Do you know what? Well, first off, do you know what chemtrail is? It's a combination of two words. Do you know what words? It's pretty obvious.
Chemical and trail?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the hardest question I've ever been asked in my life.
What's a contrail?
Oh, condensation?
Exactly. Condensation and trail, obviously.
Okay.
So they come from aircraft exhaust and are composed of water vapor, which forms into ice crystals in the upper atmosphere. But the thing about contrails is that the atmosphere is rarely the same day to day. So contrails rarely appear in exactly the same way. Some days the atmosphere won't be conducive to them and the contrails may be faint, they may be non-existent. Some days a supersaturated atmosphere will hold the contrails and those ice crystals for a really long time. And sometimes, because you have those ice crystals suspended and you have the sun in the particularly right place, the sun will scatter rays through them like a prism and produce these really beautiful colors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I bet that's actually a really cool way to determine the atmosphere of the water composition of the air that day. I feel like this is something for reading nature signs or something that guy Tristan Gooley, I feel like that's totally something that he would be like, okay, just look at the contrail and determine how much water's in then see if it's going to rain. And
you probably could.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably could.
Yeah.
I obviously I don't know enough about that, but certainly if you look at pictures of them, you can see like greens and purples and sometimes even rainbow colors. And sometimes it's a super thin contrail and sometimes it's like almost the shape of the plane and the width of the plane. And like they're totally different things. They're actually really kind of beautiful. But some people say those are psychedelic colored drugs or vaccines or something like that. But it's not. It's a remarkable combination of atmospheric and solar conditions colliding. You need the air at the right temperature and density, you need a plane flying through it, you need the sun in the right position and intensity, and if any of those get altered, they might look slightly different. And that's one of the things that people say is that like, oh, well, I've seen white ones before, but today I see a green one. That's got to be a chemtrail. But it's not. It's just the way the atmosphere and the sunlight are behaving when you see it.
And this is like third grade science class.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that people understand it.
No, it doesn't. Or, that they were maybe listening in third grade. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. So why does this belief in such a preposterous theory continue? I think there's a couple of reasons. I think chemtrails have a very familiar marker that makes all conspiracy theories sticky, or at least most conspiracy theories. That someone is hiding it. In this place, the government is hiding it generally. There's something about this idea of discovering a kernel of information that somebody doesn't want you to believe. And that tickles a very particular part of our brains. We love this idea of being connected to a deeper secret. One of the few people who actually know what's going on. I see behind the curtain. I know what this thing is. And chemtrails put a Band-Aid on a complex problem. Why is the weather getting weirder? Not climate change. Climate change is an extremely complex issue. It must come from man-made weather manipulation instead, in the form of contrails and cloud seeding. Why are more prevalent diseases, more droughts, more whatever that bothers you? We can link all of these things to our inherent distrust of the government, which is perpetuated by an overly complex and complicated series of legislation, bodies, and organizations that seem to be almost impenetrable. So basically, because the government is so complex, we are more inclined to believe that there are hidden things in there that we don't understand. And because of that, we're more inclined to throw conspiracy theories onto it, like drape conspiracy theories over this complicated government. Because I think if the government was simpler, we wouldn't be able to, because there would be less little like nooks and crannies for us to hang those conspiracy theories on.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the reasons that this all perpetuates. We like being in the know of something. And then also because it takes these very complicated issues like climate change and simplifies them down into what's causing climate change? Planes in the sky spewing chemicals.
Yes.
Because what is causing climate change? I can't give you that answer in one sentence.
It's many things.
It's many, many things, and it's very complicated. But it's also very real.
It is also very real. It's a very interesting article because there was just a cornucopia of absolute misinformation and confusion.
Yes.
One particular sentence got to me. And this sentence actually spurred me into looking into something on my own, which I want to bring up.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is from the article. A young Bondurant mother, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, with an infant cradled to her chest, cried as she said her unvaccinated children have been sick for months with a respiratory illness that will not relent. So there's a couple of things to touch on here. The first thing is the obvious thing. You have unvaccinated children with a respiratory infection that will not relent. And you're blaming the U.S. government dropping chemtrails on your house. Not the fact that you haven't vaccinated your children.
Yeah, vaccinate your fucking kids.
This is like you don't wear a seatbelt, you get into a car accident, and you blame going through the windshield on Hillary Clinton.
That's a great comparison.
Thanks. I mean, it really makes no fucking sense. Here's the thing, and this is just complete also textbook mass hysteria, which we have to just point out. More and more people are just deciding that this is a thing, right? The other thing that's becoming very clear to me as I read this is what else causes respiratory illness? What causes anxiety? What causes COPD? Early death, cancer. That's industrial farming. What state has the highest industrial animal density, therefore the most animal waste? In the United States, that's Iowa, with 109 billion pounds annually. That's 25 times the state's human waste.
Holy shit, what?
Yeah, this is according to Food and Water Watch.
25, wait, just so I get that figure straight in my head, 25 times the human population's waste is produced by Iowa in the form of animal waste?
Animal waste.
That's fucking crazy.
That's 109 billion pounds of animal shit.
Holy shit. shit.
Holy shit, indeed.
Literally, holy shit. Oh my God.
This is from Johns Hopkins. Living near an industrial food animal production operation was positively associated with respiratory health outcomes, including asthma and COPD, MRSA, a contagious and antibiotic-resistant staph bacteria that causes skin, blood, and other potentially dangerous infections. Q fever, a bacterial infection that can be spread to humans by infected animals, including sheep, cattle, and goats. And this is the kicker. And stress mood problems, including feelings of annoyance, stress, nervousness, and anxiety, as well as worse moods characterized by tension, depression, anger, fatigue, and confusion. When you look at a map of our United States, and by the way, you can do this, if you went to storymaps.arcgis.com, you can look up your own county if you live in the United States, and you can see what it does is it calculates all livestock density. And you can kind of like specify, chickens or milk cows or beef cattle. But it also has like an overall density map. And if you look at Iowa, this state is just in the purple for severe density ranking. And so, Jeff Shipley, you fucking asshole, your responsibility to your constituents should not be pursuing a bullshit pseudoscientific claim that planes are dropping chemicals on your people. What's happening is that the lobbied up meat industry is poisoning you and your fucking residents every fucking year. That shit has nowhere to go. That shit goes into your water, the shit goes into the air, and it is proven that it causes extreme illness, mental and physical. And this is something that's dear to me too, because if I look at my own county where I grew up, it's also in the red. It's also actually purple. It's just like Iowa. I watched my own county go from family farms to more industrialized, like farming complexes. And it's kind of, you can just really see it across the United States. So if you want to have a really bad day, go ahead and take a look and see what your county's up to right now, because that's the kind of legislation that we should really be worried about, is what is the meat lobby doing to our representatives? Where's the money going?
Right.
And I'll just disclose that I am a vegan, and so this is slightly like important to me on a lot of ethical levels, but also like I'm also very much for small family farms and supporting our communities, because communities have been hit hard by these industrial farms, and it's depressing these states.
And you can't deny the facts too. Right. When you look at that, you look at the factory farming density, you see that equates with these places that have higher incidence of COPD, of, these sorts of illnesses like that. And then you see that these places are also trying to push chemtrail bills and that kind of shit. Like it doesn't matter if you're vegan or not.
It's killing you no matter what.
Yeah, obviously this is a problem. I'm not vegan. I was raised by a family of, well, not directly, but my family were butchers, But it was very different when my grandfather went out there and picked a cow and butchered that cow, as opposed to, moving an entire couple dozen cows at a time and slaughtering them. These are very, very different things.
Yeah. It's just heartbreaking that people are going after not only the wrong thing, but a completely fake thing.
And it's super dangerous. It's super, super dangerous. And this is what we talked about. This is the weaponization of conspiracy theory. It's the weaponization of the Fortean it's becoming clear to me how dangerous it is. And to close on that, I want to talk about something else, which is the darker side to this bill that I see. Because Shipley's bill paves the way to outlaw geoengineering, or any kind of alteration of the planet's environment. And that's particularly nefarious because of the far-reaching implications it has in the opposition of climate change. You know what else is geoengineering? Removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere with afforestation or carbon air capture. Or passive cooling through the use of thermally reflective roofing. Or glacier stabilization through mitigating sea temperature increases. That's all geoengineering, and that's all shit that he is outlawing. It's climate engineering. They're vital for us to reach at least some level of carbon neutrality before our planet overheats.
It's already overheating.
I know. We have to, but we have to try.
I know. Well,
Like,
and these are the states that are the most vulnerable states.
Right.
They need it.
Yes. But legislation like this anti-geoengineering bill, disguised as an act against a stupid-ass conspiracy theory, this could actually stifle some of this necessary progress to help keep our planet alive. Whether it's intentional or not, Shipley is pushing a climate change denial bill, one based on vapors, but carrying very dangerous implications. So fuck you, Jeff Shipley.
Yeah. The fuck
you,
man.
Fuck you.
God damn it.
This is something that I think is going to be a talking point for us this entire year. And probably, in a way, it's been a talking point since the genesis of this podcast. But we have to watch this weaponization because they will try to pull this shit. And they will try to pull this shit while handing us like, oh, we're going to legislate against chemtrails. We're going to legislate for UAP disclosure and all of this shit. Mm-hmm. But watch what's happening behind the scenes. Watch what the deeper meaning is. Don't let them get away with pulling nefarious shit in the background while, parading fucking fairies and aliens and that kind of shit. Because you know what happened when they tried to do this shit in the past? The fucking witch trials. Mm-hmm. Just to put a little button on this, that 109 billion pounds annually of animal waste, that is 484 million Aaron Rodgers.
Whoa.
It's that equivalent in animal waste.
Did you get his weight and calculate that out?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, he weighs 225 pounds.
That's the power of a calculator, everybody. Amazing. Well, that's very good. That's very good to know. Very good little information. That's one state. It's the worst. It's the most dense.
Yeah,
state.
1 year in one state.
But one state.
That's a lot of Aaron Rodgers.
It's a lot of Aaron Rodgers. That's a lot of aerosolized shit and shit in your water. Yeah.
So that's where we're at. This was February. It's, hey, you know what? We're here. We got to keep doing this. We got to keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. And we will continue to do that. We will continue to be here and talk about this shit because it's super important. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening, for sticking around with us. It's really great to have all of you here. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much to our supporters. Anybody who is interested in throwing us a couple of bucks or something like that, you can always head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com, click on the support us button at the top of the page. There you can leave a donation and just to help keep the lights on, keep us moving forward here.
Thank you deeply to those who do donate.
Yes, always much appreciated.
All of our
Thank
listeners.
you. Thank you to all of our listeners. Something really cool that I did want to announce. I know that some people have been talking about merch in the past. We have launched a merch store. You can also find that on our website, slayingmonsterspodcast.com. Yay. There's a merch button at the top of the page. And I just want to say that, it's difficult for a small micro business like this to have something like a merch store and also do the best that we can to support the planet and to support the workers who are associated with it. So I worked really hard to try to find the most ethical places that we could source our merchandise from, and I'm really happy to report that I was able to do that for what we have there. So on all of our items, you can check out what they are, the companies that make them, and feel free to do your own research into them. But I really do stand behind the companies that we have working there. That was something that was very important to me, and I didn't want to have merchandise until I was positive that we could do it right. So we've done our best to source the most ethically responsible places that we could. Mm-hmm. So once again, slayingmonsterspodcast.com. We got merch. You can support us there. And just, if you just want to keep listening, that's totally fine too.
Yeah, we love you for that.
Always love to have your earballs.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and I end with a quote. This is from Louis Pasteur.
Ooh.
And it kind of goes along the lines of my last rant.
Okay.
All right. One does not ask of one who suffers, what is your country and what is your religion? One merely says, you suffer. That is enough for me.
All right. Till next time, everybody. Take care.
Take care. Thanks for listening.
Be safe out there. Thanks for listening to Slaying Monsters, the Fortean History Podcast. If you like the podcast, there's a couple ways you can show your support. You can tell your friends, you can leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform, or you can head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com and click on the Support Us button to leave a donation. For questions, suggestions, and other feedback, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and stay up to date by following us on socials at Slaying Monsters Podcast. Your support helps us grow, and we are truly grateful to have our listeners and community.